All right, well, it's been a long time coming for the past few months. Alabama Beavers been cutting down their guys. Yeah, pretty. That's like the only major news outside of a player signing somewhere else and leaving, but I mean, like staying the same place. This is Tampa Bay Tornadoes as Prince Shinola. I'm not even gonna address anything like that. Next, a running back signed with the Jacksonville Sharks. That's Jimmy Robinson. Probably gonna discuss that. UFL wide receivers and recent news, and that's it. We're gonna get on it on Spotify, on YouTube, IFA Newsroom, and on Instagram as well. Maybe TikTok when it gets back. Well, I already started that, but I gave up early. But anyway, without further ado, we're just gonna hop right into it. Alabama Beavers, they did it. They have now been cutting down their roster, as a lot have been expecting. A lot sooner than people were expecting as well, but they have a lot of guys, and they're cutting down from like, hey, we don't really need this guy to that guy. I'm not going to get too much into who they are because this was what they thought was their last chance to play, but from what I'm hearing, some players will be jumping into Arena and getting a chance to play in like the AAL2 or the NAL. So that's good for Alabama players. Prince Shinola, congrats on signing with the Wheeling Miners, as we have released in our last Arena episode. If you had not listened to it, go back. If not, I don't really care. But Prince Shinola is now with the Wheeling Miners and may use that as an opportunity to get ready for the IFA season, or may not even play in the IFA at all, or that might just be a backup just in case the IFA fails. I don't really know. Also, the 2023 IFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jimmy Robinson, has now signed with the Jacksonville Shark. It's crazy, but that team could possibly make a bigger run than they did last year. They sucked last year. That team really sucked. But the addition with Mass and Puka Williams can also be part, but I don't really think it's like a lot. We're going to break down some more IFL in the next Arena episode. I got some comparisons that are going to possibly trigger some people. So Friday, the next Arena episode when it comes out. So for now, that's all the really like IFL and IFA news and AF1 news that I can discuss for now. Now, next we have some UFL signings and transactions to discuss. And it's been like an eventful just like 4 or 5 days since I've like actually covered it, and some stuff's happened. So, first off, San Antonio Brahmas, Kellen Mond may not be your starting quarterback come week 1. Chase Garbers may not be returning because the San Antonio Brahmas are bringing quarterback Jared Garantano back. Not back, they're bringing him in. They're not bringing Chase Garbers back because why would you bring him when you have 2 starting quarterbacks? Garantano, of course, played for the Houston Roughnecks, did not win a single game as a starter, but I'd more blame that on Coach Curtis Johnson. That's really all that San Antonio has really done. Battlehawks signed defensive tackle Kyler Baugh, spent time in the NFL. Memphis Showboats bring in a player from the IFA who never played in the IFA, but was supposed to be the special teams coordinator. Matt Mangle has been brought into Memphis, which means he is most likely not going to punt inside the IFA. They bring in defensive end / linebacker DeMarcus Mitchell, spent some NFL time, was recently released from the Birmingham Stallions. Not the only Birmingham Stallions player that was recently released that was signed. Everybody seems to want to get their hands on these players. Interesting, right? And then they bring in defensive back Tony Edwosu and defensive back Eric Guerrer. That's how you say it. The DC Defenders. We fight for all DC. Who are we? The Defenders. Now, the Defenders have a couple interesting signings. They bring back DeAndre Baker, who played safety with them for the past couple seasons. They're probably not going to bring back DJ Swearinger, shocker, but they signed wide receiver Jordan Mickens, who played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and has won a Super Bowl, has a lot of professional experience, and could easily step into that wide receiver 1 role that the team was kind of missing last year because Tyler Scott and Brandon Smith were both great, but just not really what the team had needed. They're bringing tight end Devin Asise, who played with the New England Patriots and second New England Patriots, or third, I believe. I don't I don't know which one it is. And Darius Harper, offensive lineman, has been claimed from the Birmingham Stallions. And yes, we live in that era of spring football to where we have to announce teams are claiming players off of waiver wires. And this is not huge, it's not like bigger, but like that's the era we're living in spring football now. These leagues are lasting, so now these players are getting claimed off of waivers. Next, the Arlington Renegades. They're a big story because they're making a lot of changes. Wide receiver Tyler Voss is brought back. Tyler Voss and Deontay Burnett as well. But I think we've already discussed Burnett. We'll discuss them in this receivers episode today. Carlton Johnson, Brady Breeze, Letty Brown is cut. Two defensive backs that I forgot to mention was Carlton Johnson and Brady Breeze are both defensive backs and have a ton of NFL experience. Blake Larson and Marquette Evans are two offensive linemen who have a lot of NFL experience. And Kellen Deesh, if that's how you say his name. Birmingham Stallions, because Chicago Lions at some point, if they stop, never mind, actually forget. The Birmingham Stallions, I meant to say, have promoted their defensive line coach, Bill Johnson, to the Chicago Bears to be their defensive line coach, showing you it's not just players that go from the UFL to the NFL. So I like to see that one. Now, what everybody has been looking forward to, wide receivers, we're going to start off. We're gonna start off with DC. I was thinking, maybe let's start off with Arlington or whatever. So we're gonna start off with the DC Defenders. Wide receiver, they're only bringing back two wide receivers from last season. Kiki Kute is out. Vincent Smith is most likely out, and Monroe Young are both out. Now they're bringing back Ty Scott and Chris Rowland. Chris Rowland is, of course, their special teams, return guy. He's their specialist. He can do everything. They're bringing in two notable names as Lyd Bowden Jr. and Jaden Mickens. Jaden Mickens, of course, as I had mentioned earlier, is Super Bowl winning, wide receiver. The one thing is he's 30 years old. So this whole, age thing, they're going for younger guys. No, that's not the case. They want the best possible talent out there on the field. And it's mainly redefining their last chance, university like type league they are. Lyn Bowden Jr. is a running back / wide receiver, so we could see him make a name in maybe the run game a little bit, taking maybe 3 to 4 carries a game. Nothing really crazy outside of Shaq Davis and Josh Matthews, but that's all we have for DC. Now the St. Louis Battlehawks are bringing back 4 guys from last season. Hakeem Butler, Ja'Cory Pearson, Blake Jackson, and Jerome Cap. 2 notable names that they're bringing in is Denzel Mims and Andy Isabella. Andy Isabella was claimed by the Bills mid-season, but returned back to St. Louis. And Denzel Mims had bounced around quite a few NFL teams the past 2 seasons and now finds himself with the St. Louis Battlehawks. We discussed a little bit of Jared Garantano, had a mini UFL jersey. Not jersey. What's wrong with me, man? Anyways, the Brahmas brought back 3 receivers from last year: Jontre Kirkland, Marquez Stevenson, and Justin Smith. Justin Smith and Marquez Stevenson made little impact, but of course, that's what we saw on the field, not off. They're bringing in Greg Ward, wide receiver from Houston, 27 years old, played with the Eagles, also played with the San Antonio Commanders back in 2019 in the AAF. They bring in wide receiver Ty Freifogel and Matthew Sexton, from Eastern Michigan. Ty Freifogel was a pretty decent wide receiver in the NFL. Coming out of the draft, got undrafted, hopped around a few teams. But the one point you should focus on is Greg Ward and Jontre Kirkland, which could be a great, probably the best duo inside of the league this season. Next is the Arlington Renegades, and they bring back quite a few pieces. And this may make you scratch your head when it comes to who's gonna be the wide receiver 1 out in Arlington. But Tyler Voss, Javonte Payton, Deontay Burnett, and Isaiah Winstead, and Jonathan Manigo are brought back, which leaves them with Damon Shihigasepi, David Duran, and Todd Simmons at the receiver position. Deontay Burnett, as we have stated before, spent some time in the spent some time with Dallas this past season. I think as well with Tyler Vaughn, something like that. Luan Winningham and Caleb Vander Esch are the two receivers that are not coming back, as well as Devion Smith, running back, as we had discussed, coming back. But why would I mention that? But the one point I will make is Damian Higasepi, very, very famous spring football, not spring football, more of like NFL guy. And, Todd Simmons, of course, has the respect of like the whole arena community. Isaiah Winstead, of course, is like a tight end hybrid of a wide receiver. But they also haven't brought back Sal Cannella yet, and they just announced the signing of Luis Perez very, very, very recently. Now, for the UFL side of the ball, we got some playmakers. Houston retains 4 receivers from last year: Justin Hall, Kiki Chisholm, Cyril Grayson, and Emmanuel Butler. TJ Vasher, Belton Davis, Brian Burt, and CJ Windham are their biggest ads. CJ Windham has spent the past 2 years playing arena ball, and TJ Vasher is a former former XFL San Antonio Brahma wide receiver. Memphis throwing the ball from Quentin Dormady and Troy Williams. On receiving side is David Davis and Jonathan Adams, who are the 1-2 guys that they're bringing back, as well with D. Anderson, but D. Anderson probably isn't going to do a lot. Kyle Sheets is one guy, wide receiver from Slippery Rock, at the age of 24. And the biggest part with this receiving core is everybody's young. Everybody's under the age of 28. The oldest being 2 receivers, Kwame Lassiter, the second, and D. Anderson. And D. Anderson, I don't know what D. Anderson's going to do. He doesn't really bring a lot to the table. Birmingham is bringing back 3 guys: Amari Rogers, Marlon Williams, and Benjamin Victor. And they're also bringing back Austin Watkins, who played with the team back 2 years ago. Kay Johnson, Jalen Camp, and Shai Smith are 2 big names, but the biggest name of them all is Joseph Ngata. They also let go of Deion Kane, which is interesting. I thought he was signed earlier, but I checked and he's not there. As long as Tyron Johnson, who is the oldest on the team at the age of 29, played his collegiate ball at Michigan State. And finally, on the USFL side, we got the Michigan Panthers. Now, of course, we discussed their quarterback room, but the oldest is Danny Ellings at 30 years old. I think that's very interesting. I don't know if Danny Ellings is actually going to be there anytime soon, but they're bringing back Marcus Sims, Seosi Mariner, Devin Ross, and Samson Nakua, bringing also John Hightower back, who has spent time with the team before. Don't think he's some new addition. Malik Turner and Xavier Malone are 2 really big names who can probably be wide receiver 1 impacts, but expect Marcus Sims and Seosi Mariner to get a lot of the action. Finally, I'm going to announce this, but the last one, we have a shorter episode today because not a lot of news to dive in or really discuss. But the Amarillo Dusters have been terminated from the National Arena League. And if anybody saw this coming, which I don't know who's actually watching this late, but if you had seen this coming, you would know they're only paying players $300 a game, making them live on their own, and that's not the NAL brand. So, good job on the NAL. They're announcing this. I know a few players had been signed or their rights were owned, but nothing I didn't even think that team would make an impact, which I think it drops the team from 9 to 8, if I'm aware. Yeah, it's from 9 teams to 8 teams, and that helps with scheduling a lot, considering that the Carolina Cobras were supposed to have the first bye of the season, and now they have to reshuffle schedules, or they might add in a team. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out, but that'll wrap it up for this episode. Episode 7. We're going to get into... until football comes around, we're not really discussing a lot of football. Yet, I should say. But that'll wrap it up. Follow us on all socials. Follow Spring to Football, I guess. I mean, we're only on Threads and Instagram for now. They'll wrap it up on Spotify, on YouTube. Listen on Spotify, okay? The analytics are good. All the analytics have been good, actually. So, thank you guys. Thank you a lot. But without further ado, that'll wrap it up.